A week before Christmas, I froze in the hallway when I overheard my mother laughing about their plan. I wasn't going to be a guest at the holiday celebration. I'd be the unpaid babysitter for 9 restless kids. My chest tightened, but I smiled to myself. If they thought I'd play the servant again, they had no idea what was coming. On December 24th, when Mom called and asked, "Where are you?" I laughed and told her not to wait for me, or for the catering. What they didn't know was that their perfect Christmas was already falling apart. My name is Madison, and I'm 28. If you looked at my life on paper, you might think I had everything figured out. I work as a data analyst at a tech company, have my own apartment near the city, and make decent money. Enough to eat out when I feel like it and splurge on little luxuries. People at work think I have it all together, but they don't know about the part of my life that tightens my stomach every weekend, the part that revolves around my family. I live just 30 minutes from my parents' house, close enough that visits are easy, but too close to make excuses. For a long time, I didn't want to make excuses. I loved my parents, or at least I used to think I did, in that simple way children love their parents. But the older I got, the more complicated that love became. Take my sister Laura, for example. She's 34, 6 years older than me, married to her high school sweetheart Mark. They have 2 kids, Ethan, 9, and Chloe, 7. Cute, energetic kids. They call me Aunt Maddie and always run into my arms when they see me. That part always melts me. But what follows? That's the part that's been grinding me down for years. Every Saturday morning around 9 a.m., I get a knock at my door. Sometimes I'm still in my pajamas, sometimes halfway through my coffee, and sometimes not even awake. But it's always the same. Laura standing there with a bright smile, Ethan and Chloe bouncing beside her, backpacks slung over their shoulders. "Hey, Mads," she says. The kids are so excited to spend the day with their favorite aunt. She kisses them goodbye, and before I can protest or even take a breath, she's gone. Off to brunch with Mark, a movie, or a couple's spa day. Hours later, she returns. Sometimes it's almost 10 p.m. By then, I'm standing in a living room, scattered with Legos, half-eaten pizza crusts, and 2 overtired kids fighting over the remote. At first, I told myself I didn't mind. They're family, right? That's what we do. We help each other. And I do love those kids. But after the 10th Saturday in a row, then the 20th, the pattern stopped feeling like love and started feeling like exploitation. 3 months ago, I hit my breaking point. It was a Sunday morning and the kids had just left. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my untouched breakfast. My eyes burned from exhaustion. My head buzzed with noise that wasn't even there anymore. I picked up my phone and called Laura. "Hey, Laura," I started carefully. "Can we talk about the Saturday thing?" There was a long silence on the other end, and I thought maybe the call had dropped. Then her voice came back, sharp but coated in the fake hurt she's perfected over the years. "Wow, Madison, I can't believe you'd even bring that up. You're being selfish. Mark and I work all week. We barely get time together. You don't have kids. You don't have a husband. What else are you doing on Saturdays anyway?" I tried to explain, my voice trembling. I might want to go out, to date, to see friends. I wanted to say that I was exhausted too, that my job drained me, that I deserved my weekends. But Laura wasn't listening. "You're being ridiculous. Ethan and Chloe adore you. You're basically their second mom. Why would you deny them that?" When I hung up, my hand shook with a mix of rage and shame. Somehow, she had turned my plea for balance into an attack on her, and I was the selfish one. 2 weeks later, I tried again, this time at Sunday dinner at my parents' house. The table smelled of roast chicken and herbs, and the familiar comfort of home wrapped around me. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd be heard. "Mom, Dad," I began, pushing food around my plate. "I love spending time with Ethan and Chloe. but it's a lot every weekend. Maybe we could work out a schedule, like rotate so I get some time off." My dad barely looked up from his plate. "Madison, those children are family. You help family." Mom set down her fork and gave me the disappointed look that made me feel 13 again. "Honey, I raised you better than this. Laura works hard. She deserves time with Mark. You're single. You don't have responsibilities like she does. Honestly, taking care of Ethan and Chloe is the best preparation you could ask for. When you get married and have children of your own, you'll be grateful for all this experience." I opened my mouth to argue, but Laura jumped in with that smirk. "You can date Friday nights or Sunday nights. Your friends can hang out with you and the kids. It's not that complicated, Mads." Dad nodded. "Your sister's right. Family comes first." Something inside me twisted so hard I thought I might break. I wanted to scream, to flip the table, to tell them I wasn't their babysitter. But instead, I smiled weakly, nodded, and ate my dinner. I played the good daughter, driving home that night, the roads wet with rain. I remembered a Christmas when I was 16. Laura had been 22, newly married, and she and Mark wanted to go to some big holiday party. Mom and Dad told me, "You'll stay with the kids." That was before Ethan and Chloe. Back when Laura used to babysit our cousins, I remember sitting in a living room with 4 screaming toddlers while the adults drank mulled wine by the fireplace. That was the first time I felt invisible. Years later, nothing had changed, and maybe that's why, when December rolled around and the air smelled of cinnamon and pine, I wasn't looking forward to Christmas at all, because deep down, I knew my family didn't see me as Madison the adult. They saw me as Madison the free babysitter, the girl whose time didn't matter. And I was starting to wonder just how far they'd push me this time. The first week of December, my phone lit up with Mom's name. At my desk at work, my eyes sore from staring at spreadsheets. I answered the phone. "Hi, sweetheart." My mom's sing-song voice came through the line, and I immediately felt a wave of weariness wash over me. "I'm calling about Christmas," she continued. My chest tightened at the mention of the holiday. "We're having a big celebration this year. Your Aunt Carol is bringing her 3 kids. Uncle Mike and Aunt Sarah are bringing their 2. And Mark's parents and his brother's family will be there too. About 25 people. It'll be a big one." I forced my voice to sound steady. "That sounds nice, Mom. What do you need me to bring?" There was a pause, just long enough for me to feel a sinking feeling in my stomach. "Well," she began, "I don't think I can cook for all those people by myself. I was hoping you could handle the food. Maybe order catering from a nice place. You're doing so well at your job, honey. The rest of us are struggling a bit." My grip on the phone tightened. Catering for 25 people wasn't cheap. "How much are we talking?" I asked, my voice low. "Oh, I don't know. Around $2,000 maybe," she replied, her voice softening with that familiar hint of guilt. "But it'll be so special, Madison. Everyone together. A big feast. No stress for me." I stared at the spreadsheet in front of me, the numbers blurring. $2,000. Money I had been saving for a vacation. My one chance to escape the city for a while. But her voice trembled just enough, and the guilt hooked into me like it always did. "Okay, Mom," I whispered. "I'll handle it." Her relief was instant. "Thank you, honey. You're such a good daughter. I'll send you a list of everyone's favorite dishes." When the call ended, I dropped my head into my hands. It was just one Christmas dinner, I told myself. One time. A week later, the phone rang again. This time, it was the catering company. "Miss Wilson, this is Sarah from Romano's. We have a small issue with your order. The honey glazed ham is unavailable. Could we substitute roasted turkey instead?" It seemed like a minor issue, but I didn't want to make the decision without checking with my family. "Let me check and call you back." I dialed my mom. Straight to voicemail. Dad, voicemail. Laura, voicemail. All 3 phones off. Something prickled at the back of my neck. That evening, I drove to my parents' house. Snow crunched under my tires as the neighborhood glowed with Christmas lights. I let myself in with my spare key, and the familiar smell of pot roast greeted me. Then I froze. From the living room, I heard Mom's voice, loud and cheerful. She was on the landline. "Oh, Carol, it's perfect," she said. "Madison will be watching all the kids. Don't worry about bringing activities. They'll be fine upstairs. We're setting up the back bedroom with movies and games, and Madison can stay with them while the adults enjoy themselves downstairs." My body went cold. 9, maybe 10 kids, and me, stuck upstairs with them like some underpaid nanny, while everyone else sipped wine and played cards. Mom's voice lowered, but I could still hear the smile in it. "It's perfect. Madison doesn't have kids of her own, so she's not tired like the rest of us. She's the youngest, full of energy. She does it every Saturday anyway. What's a few more for one night?" I gripped the wall, my scarf twisted tightly around my fist. My grandmother had given me that scarf before she passed, and suddenly it felt like the only thing tethering me to reality. My stomach churned. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a setup. They had never planned for me to enjoy Christmas. I was the hired help. But I wasn't hired. I was just expected. I stepped back toward the door, heart racing. But then Mom's footsteps came closer. I forced my voice to sound normal. "Mom, I just got here." She appeared with fake surprise plastered on her face. "Madison, what a lovely surprise. What brings you here?" "The restaurant called," I said quickly. "The ham's out. They're offering turkey instead. Is that okay?" "Oh, turkey sounds perfect. Whatever you think is best, sweetheart," she replied, her smile too wide, her eyes too knowing. I nodded and left quickly, my heart pounding as I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel until my hands hurt. By the time I got home, my decision was made. I called Romano's back. "Hi, this is Madison Wilson. I need to cancel my Christmas Eve order." "Cancel, Ms. Wilson? Christmas is only a week away. We can refund part, but you'll only get about 1,000 back." "That's fine. Cancel it." When I hung up, my chest felt both lighter and heavier at the same time. Then I remembered something. A call from months ago. Jessica, my old college roommate, had invited me to Colorado for Christmas. "Come to the cabin," she'd said. Skiing, hot chocolate, a real holiday. Back then, I'd turned her down, thinking family came first. Now, staring at the refund email on my screen, I scrolled to Jessica's number. "Jess, remember that Christmas invite? Is it still open?" Her laugh came through bright and bubbly. "Are you serious? Of course. Drive out on the 23rd. We're heading up to the cabin then." When the call ended, I sank back against the couch, heart pounding in a new rhythm. For the first time, I wasn't going to play along. For the first time, I wasn't going to be their servant, and they had no idea what was coming. December 23rd arrived with a sharp bite in the air, the kind of cold that nips at your cheeks before you even step outside. I left work early, packed my bags, and slid them into the trunk of my car. The city was buzzing with holiday chaos. Traffic, thick horns, impatient people rushing everywhere. But as I pulled onto the highway, leaving the skyline behind, I felt lighter. Hours later, I arrived at Jessica's parents' house in Colorado. The night smelled of pine and snow, the kind that crunches under your boots like brittle glass. Her parents, Mike and Carol, welcomed me with open arms. They weren't just polite, they were genuinely warm. Family, I thought, the words hanging in the air like a heavy weight. I used to think that too, but not anymore. You've always taken and never given. You've never even asked what I need. I'm not your free help. I'm not your backup. The room fell silent, and I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears. It felt like the walls were closing in on me. The tension so thick, it was suffocating. Mom, Dad, and Laura stood there, the anger and frustration radiating off of them. They were angry because I'd refused to play the role they had cast me in. They were angry because I'd chosen to live my life on my own terms, instead of serving them at their convenience. I stood firm. I did what I needed to do. For the first time, I took control of my life. I'm not a servant to your plans anymore, and I'm not going to apologize for that. Laura's face was twisted with disbelief. You ruined Christmas for all of us, Madison. How could you do that? I met her gaze, not flinching. You ruined it long before I ever made that call. You never saw me as anything other than a tool to get what you wanted. And I'm done being that. Dad's jaw clenched. You've got no idea how hard it was, how embarrassing this was for us. Embarrassing for you. I shot back, my voice low and steady. It's not about you. It's about me for once. You've been asking me to sacrifice everything for your convenience. And I've had enough. Mom stepped forward, her voice cracking. You're our daughter, Madison. You're supposed to help your family. Christmas is supposed to be about being together. I shook my head, my chest tight. But not like this, Mom. Not as your unpaid servant. Not as someone you only call when you need something. Her eyes filled with tears, and I could hear the hurt in her voice. We're family. This is what families do for each other. I took a deep breath. Yeah, this is what families do. But you've never really seen me. You only see what you can take from me. That's not family. Not anymore. Laura crossed her arms, her face hard. So this is it then. You're just going to walk away from us. From everything we've done for you. I stood my ground, my voice firm. I'm not walking away. I'm standing up for myself. I'm not the same person I was. And you need to understand that. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. The weight of what had been said sinking in. Finally, my dad spoke. His voice resigned. I guess we're not going to get through to you. Fine. But don't expect us to be here when you need us next time. I met his gaze without flinching. Maybe I won't need you. Maybe for the first time. I'm okay without your help. With that, they turned and left. The door slamming behind them, with a finality that left the air thick with unresolved tension. I stood there, shaking but resolute. The bitterness of the confrontation was still fresh, but beneath it, there was a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. It was freedom. As I sat back down on the couch, the weight of it all started to sink in. The messages, the calls, the guilt, it had all been worth it. For the first time, I had chosen myself, and in that moment, I realized I didn't need them. Not in the way they thought I did. I was free to live my own life, on my own terms. Christmas might have been chaotic for them, but for me, it was the beginning of something new. A life that was mine to control, and that was the best gift I could have ever given myself. Everyone, but it's one I chose for myself. I had spent too long being the one who was always there, always expected to drop everything for others, only to be overlooked and used in return. That red scarf, my grandmother's last piece of advice, had been the catalyst that finally allowed me to see myself as more than just an extension of my family's needs. It was a reminder that I had my own worth, my own life to live, and it was time to stop sacrificing it for their convenience. The days that followed were a strange kind of peace, a quiet that settled over me like a soft snowfall. I had chosen to stand firm in the boundaries I'd set, even if it meant losing the approval of the people I'd once considered closest. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I had spent so many years being their shadow. Now I was learning to live fully in my own light. As the weeks went by, I found myself growing stronger. I didn't look over my shoulder, waiting for the familiar knock at the door, or the phone calls with demands disguised as family requests. I filled my weekends with things that brought me joy, things that were just for me, and when I thought about the past, I no longer felt that familiar pang of guilt. The silence was no longer uncomfortable. It was freeing. Even with that freedom, I never forgot my grandmother's words, her wisdom that echoed in my mind whenever I wore that red scarf. It had become a symbol of my decision to stop being anyone's shadow. I was allowed to have my own space, my own happiness, without needing to constantly give pieces of myself away. And as much as I missed the family I had once known, I had learned to accept that some relationships needed to be rebuilt, or sometimes just left behind. Then came that message. A simple, "We need to talk, Mom." The old me might have rushed to respond, to fix everything, to slide back into the role I had played for so long. But now, with that red scarf hanging from my chair, I knew better. I wasn't going to make myself small again. Not for anyone. I didn't reply. I let the message sit there, unread for a while. Maybe I would reply eventually, but not until they understood that respect needed to come first. Not until they realized that the price of being in my life was more than just taking. It was about giving too. And as I turned off my phone, leaned back in my chair, and let the quiet settle around me, I knew one thing for certain. The next chapter of my life wasn't going to be about appeasing others. It was going to be about living for myself. So here's to anyone who has ever felt trapped, overlooked, or taken for granted by their family. This is for you. You deserve to live your own life, to have your own space, and to be treated with the same respect you give. Sometimes, stepping away is the first step toward reclaiming who you are. I'm ready for the next chapter, and I hope you are too.